way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotti, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe.
No way.
Red Hot Gotti. Alright, so today is Christmas! Alright, alright, now I'm done blowing your eardrums out. Today I just wanted to, do the finale for this Spider-Man, little series about the games that Insomniac has made, or have made. Essentially, I'm just going to be talking about who has the better suits, the better characters, the better villains, the better story, and the better supporting characters. No, I was right in the beginning. Better character. So yeah, basically all these categories, all five, are basically just going to be talking about who has the better game, essentially. And it is only two. Yeah, so Peter versus Miles. Let's just get into the finale, and yeah, let's get into it. Now, essentially, the story is, because that's the last part, just essentially just everything that involves both games and just how they connect with each other and how they just have their own separate stories. Now, I'd say in terms of like how they connect, I would say it carries off like with pretty much basically like a happy ending, and it has all the main characters, the important characters from the first game and the second game, including Peter himself. You have Miles, obviously he's the main character, who was a side character and essentially had his little like separate missions in the game. And then you have his mother Rio, and then you have his his uncle Aaron Davis, and then you have the father Jefferson Davis, who died in the first game, obviously. And then Peter felt bad about that, and then he tried to comfort Miles, and then Miles was like, nah, screw that, I'm pissed off. And that's what led to his arc. And then he got bit by the spider, and then he had his own game. Now that's how essentially it connects, mostly all the same characters, same city, obviously, just New York. Obviously, Roxxon is like the main villain in the second game, or the main company or whatever. So those are going to be the, I guess, beat 'em up villains, for lack of better words. Like essentially it's like skeletons or something like that in the Elden Ring game. Like they're just henchmen that you beat up throughout the game, kind of like the Sable agents, I think. Yeah, the Sable agents that they're called in the first game, or like Kingpin's henchmen in the first game. So yeah, they're pretty just like fodder for the most part, except for like ones with like shields, or like they have different like aspects to them, or ones that you would have to use Venom on. So and then you also have the Tinkerer's men, who also have her same tech, Finn's tech, which are even more annoying, because for certain ones you literally need to use Venom or you're not going to defeat them. And I've tried, believe me, on the highest difficulty. Just do not do that. I'm telling you right now. But yeah, in general, just talking about the connection, that's basically all they have in terms of, well, not all they have. I can go more into depth, but essentially you get it. When it comes to like the specifics, I like how the first game, I'm going to talk about that first, how, in the first game it's talking about how 8 years has passed, and Peter is just like a new man, and he's still doing Spider-Man stuff. He has all this high tech, which you only see with specific versions of Spider-Man, but I like how they do it in this one, where it just feels more natural. He still does Spider-Man stuff, but he just has a little bit of help, you know what I mean? And I just like how, Aunt May is still Aunt May, Peter's still Peter. Like, it feels very I guess like loyal to like the comics and other cartoons and stuff, just like how I like Spectacular Spider-Man is very loyal to the Raimi films, and I like those in the comics as well, like the Steve Ditko era. Yeah, I just really like this in general. Like the tone of it, the tone is very consistent. People die, people get hurt, people risk their lives. Like Peter risks his life a lot of times, obviously being a superhero and all. And it's just like his resilience and his emotion in this game, like it really does feel natural and stuff like that. I think all the voice acting for the most part is really good. I really like his connection with Doc Ock, and how throughout the whole game you get to see him develop into a villain, and just like you see all these other villains sprout out throughout the game as well. You got Shocker, you got Vulture, you got Shocker, or not, oh my god, I just said Shocker twice. Shocker, Vulture, Electro is what I meant to say. Rhino, Scorpion. You have Mr. Negative. Like, you have a lot in this game. You really do, and it all works very well. The one thing I don't like is when you have to fight the villains at the end of the game, like the third act. Or was it the last part of the second act? I don't know. I think it's like the climate or like the rising action. I gotta think about that. But essentially, it's when you fight like Scorpion and Rhino, and then you fight Electro and Vulture together, and it's like group fights, which makes the game more fast paced. I'd say because it would be more spread out and like throughout the game if it was like a different Spider-Man game, and that's one thing I don't like about this game is how like at the end you fight all the villains and stuff like that. And yeah, again, like you have like Scorpion who like has his little thing where he stabs you, and then you kind of go into that poison like dream sequence or whatever, and you have to like avoid like it's kind of like Batman Arkham. You have to avoid the city, the pool of like the river, basically the poison river, and you have to like swing across buildings and stuff, which is kind of cool and kind of unique. You also have like a Doc Ock sequence where you get to like see him, stuff like that. Like I just love that whole Scorpion dream sequence fight. I really like that, and that just shows the creativity in both games in general, especially the first one, and how they could just implement stuff like that. I mean, I guess actually I can't give credit for both games because it was mainly only in the first one. So yeah, I'll just say for the first one, I guess that's a leg up on that. In general, I also really like just in general like how they power scaled very well, and how like Peter is able to defeat these villains, and it feels logical. It feels like he actually has an advantage in terms of just being smarter and be able to strategize. Like how he used a Vulture in his wings and just like flew him into Electro instead of just like fighting Electro head on, which honestly would hurt and be difficult, and he probably would not win because honestly Electro in theory should be able to just eviscerate Spider-Man, because it's just like he's such a strong villain. It's like I don't see much actually hurting him, except like water. Amazing Spider-Man 2. That movie, Jesus. But yeah, in general, I like everything about the game. I even like how it has consequences. Like Aunt May dies in the end, and it just shows like as Spider-Man, a lot is going to happen. You're gonna lose some people. You're gonna have to sacrifice some things along the way. But at the end of the day, as long as the city is safe, that's all that matters. And at the end of the day, it was, and it still is. Even in the second game and stuff, like Miles held it down while Peter was on freaking vacation for some reason. God damn it. Well, I guess you gotta take a break every now and then, but still. And yeah, that's basically the first game. I really like it. I think it's very consistent. I like the different types of enemies you fight in it. And I like Silver Sable as well, to a certain extent. I kind of don't like her as well because she's entirely too powerful, and for some reason she can injure Spider-Man multiple freaking times. But other than that, I think she's fine. She's Silver Sable that I remember from like Ultimate Spider-Man, like the game, and like I guess from the comics and stuff. So yeah, I think my favorite is the Ultimate version, but yeah. And yeah, that's I'm trying to think. Obviously, like Mary Jane. I also don't like the Mary Jane like elements, and how like they had the fights and stuff like that, and how their relationship is. Like I think Mary Jane's very annoying in this game. Her side missions are annoying, and it's different because it's not just that she has side missions as a civilian. Because again, Miles has good ones, and he's a good character, and he ties into the second game as well. And he's a good friend, and also he helped out when it comes to the Rhino stuff. So in general, I think, and also it gave Peter like kind of a connection to like normal people, which I really like in this game. And yeah, but yeah, that's not the reason. It's not that she has missions. It's just that she's a bad character, and she's really annoying. And she puts entirely too much responsibility on Peter. That's not needed, because honestly, Peter's a really good person, and it's just like annoying that she just gives him so much crap, and she almost gets herself killed like multiple times, and then he has to save her. It's just like you just like, she just needs to get out of the way sometimes. Like she really does. But overall, I like the first game. I also like Norman. I'm just remembering so much as I keep going on. I guess the last part would be Norman. I like Norman Osborn. I like how he's gonna be tied into the second like Peter Parker Spider-Man game, and how like he was this kind of this cunning, conniving motivation for Octavius to become evil and become Doctor Octopus. And yeah, in general, I really like him. I'm waiting to see what he does in the second game, with Venom and Harry and stuff like that, which I'm not a huge fan of, but should be interesting nonetheless. Now, overall, I really like the Miles Morales game, and just how it segues from the first game to the second, and how you have this new protagonist and stuff like that, and it's not prolonging. It's carrying on the story, but it doesn't need Peter to do that, because it's fleshing out the world and showing that anyone could be Spider-Man, for one, and two, that the city genuinely has a character by itself, on its own, kind of thing. Like, even for one of the DLCs, it literally says the city that never sleeps. That kind of just, like, I don't know, it makes me feel some type of way, in a good way though, because it's like, it reminds me that the city is a character by itself, and how the people matter, and that's why Spider-Man like goes out here and fights every single day to save people. It's like you really get to talk with just random people a lot, and just see how they feel about, like, Spider-Man, and how there's like a new Spider-Man, and how they feel about that, and whether it's good or bad. And I just like, I think you even hear a little bit about like certain villains, like Rhino's in the second game, and I really like how Rhino's a useful tool to like teach the audience about like Miles's powers, and how they're different from Peter's. So it shows like they're different characters, and how like he's powerful enough on his own to do Spider-Man like stuff, and be able to defeat villains on his own and stuff like that, and he doesn't need Peter, but not in a way that like makes Peter worthless. It's just like he's capable, and that's why they made a whole game about him. And I just think in general, I like his suit as well. I like both of their suits. I like Peter's is more because like it's just like red and blue is classic, and it inspires hope. I feel like that's just kind of my response for like why. Like if people were to ask why does Spider-Man suit look like that, I would say it inspires hope because it's very bright, colorful looking. The red and blue, it works well together in terms of contrast. Even in this picture, Miles has that a similar color scheme, because it's just it's a really good look. Also, he was copying Peter's outfit, which I understand, because you don't really have the idea for yours yet. In general, and I just like, yeah, I really like it. In general, like when it comes to the villains, I like how Simon Krieger is like kind of like a background. He's kind of like background noise, but at the same time, you kind of understand his motivations to a certain extent. How he's kind of like this businessman who wants to do right by Roxxon and stuff like that, and make it like this huge thing for like Harlem and like New York City in general. And obviously like how Finn is another villain who doesn't like that, and you see two villains actually like fighting each other in a way. And it's a very interesting concept, because Finn sees herself as below Simon in terms of like the hierarchy, so she wants to put herself above, and or even like settle it in terms of like making them equal. So now she has to take him down, and I really like that element to it. I also like how we get to see more Finn's backstory, so she's not just a blank slate of, oh, I'm just evil for the sake of being evil, and she just isn't given enough development. I think she's given a good amount, and we get to see Finn and Miles actually like talking as normal people, and then we get to see them when they suit up, and we even get to see them team up, which is really cool. And then eventually, Finn goes crazy. She wants to kill Miles now because she's already fed up. She already had people die in her life, and she's off the deep end basically, and she's ready to just do whatever she can to do what she thinks is right. Now, once she eventually finds that out, which is kind of like anticlimactic, in general, which is kind of a strike on the game a little bit, because again, I feel like her character could have been stronger, and I really like elements of it. I just feel like the emotion wasn't really there for me. But yeah, like I'm really speaking objectively, I guess. I feel like the emotion was there for like the first game. Because I just like, obviously it's like more OG characters like Peter and Aunt May and stuff like that. Like especially when she died, but when Finn died, I just didn't really feel that, you know. But I really liked objectively how like he fell and then she, you know, was basically she burst into like she basically just exploded right after he like blew her up. She wanted it to happen because you know she shot up in the sky and basically like saved everyone essentially. You know she was a really good help because Miles, like if he was just like laying there, he wouldn't have been able to like handle all that like electricity and stuff like that, which is like it gives him a good like how do I even put it, like a limit to his power, which I really like. And it's just like it's something that I feel like even like Peter doesn't really have. It's like, well, it kind of makes sense that he doesn't have that because Peter doesn't have like electricity powers, but like he has his other tech and stuff like that, and you know it's pretty broken actually if you use it properly in the first game. But in the second game, it's like I really like how in like at least story wise you get to see that limit and stuff like that. And it's just like he has to deal with that, and it provides for a good character moment, I'll say. Let me think. Again, I also like just in general how Roxxon and you know all the other like groups of villains have like different like abilities and stuff like that, and how you can see that, and it helps you get better at the game, and it helps you like learn about like for example Miles is like invisibility powers, which are very useful and stuff like that. It's his second power, which is really cool. Like it's not only it's a Spider-Man character, which you wouldn't expect to have like electricity powers and invisibility. It's really cool, honestly. And again, it helps differentiate him as a character. There's even that one scene where he uses the invisibility where the police are basically, or no, I think it's Roxxon are after him and they're about to shoot him, and because you know they don't like the new Spider-Man. They think he's like basically a crook, and a lot of people already don't like the old Spider-Man, so it kind of makes sense. But they don't trust this one even more, so they are on the verge of shooting him, and then that's when he discovers the invisibility, which I really like. It kind of is interesting. It kind of reminds me of like real life, you know, certain things. But yeah, it feels like that would actually happen in general. It feels realistic, and you know, also he doesn't like instantly master it necessarily, which I really like. And yeah, overall, I really like this first game. You know, second game of Miles Morales. I also like how when Rio found out that Miles was Spider-Man, she didn't like freak out for that long. Like she obviously like felt some type of way, but she actually really did support him afterwards. And because obviously it's like she had to deal with like Jefferson as a police officer, you know, going out and you know fighting and defeating, not fighting. Well, yeah, he had to fight every now and then. He's a police officer, and just you know booking crooks and stuff like that, which is really cool, honestly. That you know it kind of makes sense overall. Like she already had to deal with that, and you know, I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword because like I understand why she would not want him to be Spider-Man, but I also understand how she could handle it at the same time because she already had to with Jefferson. But yeah. I think it's a different take. Like with Aunt May, she also let Peter be Spider-Man, but she was, you know, constantly worrying. Yeah, she was worrying and stuff like that, and she just had to like kind of just accept it overall. But I like how she didn't like try to stop him or anything like that. Like say, oh Peter, you know, like she didn't like tell him like, oh, can we talk, and just like go outside a feast and like try to explain to him how he can't be Spider-Man or anything like that. Like she really did let him, you know, save all these people because she knew in the end that it was the right thing to do. And then with Miles, it's like Miles and Rio, his mom, is like it's kind of like that as well. But in general, like I feel like in a further game, like in the future games, you could see Miles and his mother actually like he can actually like probably confide in his mother. I can't speak properly, goddamn. Confide in his mother about like all the stuff that he has to go through while being Spider-Man, and I think that's really cool because in general you didn't really see that with Aunt May and like Peter, you know, and she's still alive, so it's just like I really want to see that dynamic handled like properly and stuff like that. So yeah, overall I think the first game, you know, in terms of like just how I feel about it subjectively, it's just better. And I really like just like how everything's implemented and how you got a bunch of different villains, how you have to fight them overall, and how they're connected to the main villain, which is Otto Octavius, aka Doc Ock, aka Dr. Octopus. I really like Mr. Negative as well, how you get to find out about his backstory, which I also forgot to mention, goddammit. His backstory, you know, very tragic, how his parents die, and he gets the Mr. Negative powers, you know, whatever you call them. I kind of forget. Did they give it a name? But regardless, like, I really like how he's kind of like a tragic character, and how he also hates Osborn for what he did to him and all the experiments and stuff. And you get to find out more about Osborn in the background, which he's going to become very important in the future. Yeah, I'd say both these games very much connect to each other. It's like really good. It's like Miles Morales is a really good sequel to a game like Marvel Spider-Man. Like it really is, honestly. Now, if I had to think about it objectively, I think Miles' story is better just because I think all the villains are like spread out in a better way, and I think Finn and Miles' story objectively has more like merit to it in terms of like you feeling bad for Finn and feeling bad for, you know, the situation at hand, and also he has more of a connection to the people in general. Like Spider-Man has a connection to the people, you know, he's been a superhero for longer, but I just don't feel that as much like what I do with Miles in one game, where it's actually a shorter story mode, like a shorter campaign. So yeah, I think in general, and also I feel like the character elements, you know, the character stuff with Rio and Miles and Genki, which Genki I didn't mention that much because, you know, he's just his best friend is kind of in the background and stuff like that. He has as much as like Harry, which is basically nothing. Like you have like a little bit, but it's like you're not gonna really know them unless like they're like a huge part of the actual like the campaign or anything like that. He's just kind of in the background. He's just a good help. He kind of helped them. He helped Miles with his suit. Other than that, it's like, yeah, he didn't really do much, you know. He's also part of the, you know, the apps, like the some of the missions in the actual the game. Other than that, it's like he's kind of in the background, which is fine. It's cool. But yeah, it's like objectively, I think Miles Morales, in terms of like even like how the powers are very different, and it brings out in this like new character from the first game, and you know, I think him as a hero is just like he inspires people in a different way to where like you actually get to see it visually, how the people know who he is and they want to protect him anyways. It kind of reminds me of like Spider-Man 2, which I really like that movie, even though I'm starting to realize it has a little bit of problems. I might make another video about that, but regardless, I think just that whole concept is just like it's better characterization for Miles and like the city in general. I don't like Finn more than like Dr. Octopus, but I think overall objectively she might actually be better in terms of like her characterization, her time spent with like Miles, and her time spent with him as Spider-Man, her being a villain, and you know, I think overall it makes more sense than Dr. Octopus. There's some elements of Dr. Octopus that don't make sense. There's some of Finn as well, but I think overall it holds up better. So yeah, I think everything in Miles' story just holds up better than Peter's. So yeah, objectively it's just better. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed. I really like doing this series. It's a little mini series where I just wanted to talk about both games. You know, since the second or third game, whichever you want to call it, it's going to be Spider-Man 2 in terms of like a sequel to the first game. Not a sequel to Miles Morales, but Miles Morales is going to be in that. I don't know much about it other than like the little like teaser trailer thing that they showed us. But other than that, I'm really excited for that, and I'm really excited to keep playing both, you know, Miles Morales and the first Spider-Man game for Insomniac a bunch more, because I definitely want to get some more hours on that. And you know, look at the gameplay, you know, play it and just enjoy it and stuff like that. I highly recommend both, honestly. And yeah, that's gonna be the end of this. I'm gonna be making more like probably anime videos in the future and stuff like that. Definitely more like I might talk about the MCU and then maybe the DCEU, stuff like that. So see you guys later. Peace.
No way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.